Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, dear colleagues from the media. I welcome you to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let me begin with the opening statement and then we'll open the floor for questions. The highlight of this week, ladies and gentlemen, has been the Makkah al-Mukarramah Summit for Joint Defense held on 7th August 2026, bringing together the leaderships of Pakistan, Saudi Arabia and Türkiye. The Makkah Joint Defense Agreement, which you all covered extensively, reflects the three nations' commitment to further strengthen their collective security and promoting peace, security and stability in the region and beyond. This agreement is a natural step in the long-standing brotherly relations among the three countries, and it displays our resolve for sharing the burden of regional peace and security. The agreement is purely defensive in nature and allows unified efforts to confront threats and security challenges to the member states. In his message on the 10th of August on this agreement, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, Senator Mohammad Ishaq Dar warmly facilitated the nation on signing of this agreement, describing it as a historic milestone. The DPM underscored that under the leadership of Prime Minister Mohammad Shahbaz Sharif, Chief of Defence Forces and Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir, and the Foreign Office under his own leadership, Pakistan played a pivotal role in bringing this historic Makkah Accord to fruition. He commended their leadership in safeguarding Pakistan's national interest and strengthening strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia and Türkiye. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan remains engaged alongside our brotherly states in sincere efforts to resolve the crisis in the Middle East and the Gulf. Pakistan is making all-out efforts to bring the two parties to negotiating table, Islamabad MOU, and pave the way for peace and stability in the region. Pakistan will continue to offset spoilers using direct and indirect channels and enable continuation of constructive dialogue to resolve all outstanding issues. And in the context of our peace efforts, Foreign Minister held telephone conversations with Saudi Arabia, Iran and Kuwait. So these were three conversations in one day. With the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, Prince Faisal bin Farhan, the DPM discussed bilateral and multilateral cooperation, regional developments and the importance of close coordination. And in his conversation with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi the same day, the two leaders exchanged views on regional and international developments, efforts to promote peace and stability, and the Makkah Joint Defense Agreement. He also spoke with the Kuwaiti Foreign Minister, Sheikh Jarrah Jabir Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah, with discussion focusing on the Makkah Agreement, regional development, Pakistan-Kuwait relations, and the follow-up of the visit of the Foreign Minister of Kuwait, particularly in the context of enhanced bilateral cooperation and investments. And on August 11th, the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister spoke with the Bahraini Foreign Minister, Dr. Abdul Latif bin Rashid Al Zayani, who congratulated him on the signing of the Makkah Defense Agreement and expressed his intention to visit Pakistan. DPM welcomed the proposed visit and reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to dialogue and diplomacy for regional peace and stability. Ladies and gentlemen, Federal Minister for Interior, Mr. Mohsen Naqvi, is visiting Tehran these days for meeting with senior officials, Irani officials. His visit provides an opportunity to discuss bilateral relations, security-related matters, regional developments, with a particular focus on efforts to promote peace, stability, and constructive engagement amongst the parties in the region and regional developments. Ladies and gentlemen, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, Senator Mohammad Ishaq Dar remained actively engaged in the diplomatic outreach, including important bilateral telephone conversations with his counterparts and other international leaders. On August 9th, he spoke with the Canadian Foreign Minister, Ms. Anita Anand. They exchanged views on regional developments, including the recently signed Mecca agreement and the evolving situation in the US-Iran context. The situation in Palestine, particularly East Jerusalem, was also discussed, and they agreed to remain actively engaged in their bilateral interactions. On the same day, the DPM spoke with the Foreign Minister of Senegal, Mr. Cheikh Niang. The two ministers expressed their commitment to further strengthening Pakistan-Senegal bilateral relations and furtherance of all issues on mutual interest. They agreed to enhance ongoing cooperation and coordination at multilateral forum, particularly at the United Nations. The Deputy Foreign Minister also held a telephone conversation with President Felix Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo and former President of Guinea-Bissau, Umaro Sissoco Embalo, on the 10th of August. He briefed them on the contours and significance of the Mecca Agreement and its role in strengthening regional peace and security. He also discussed the importance of furtherance of Pakistan-DRC relations, including through high-level exchanges. Pakistan and New Zealand, ladies and gentlemen, held two important dialogues. One was the bilateral political consultations led by our Additional Secretary for Asia Pacific, Ambassador Ali Asad Gilani, and the second was the Joint Trade Committee meeting led by Secretary Commerce, Mr. Jawad Paul. On political consultations, this was the third round. This was the third round of the Joint Trade Committee meeting. The two sides covered bilateral relations, explored avenues of enhanced cooperation in economic development, in science, technology, education, counterterrorism, and people-to-people contact. They agreed to enhance mutual cooperation on all multilateral forums, particularly the United Nations. At the Joint Trade Committee meeting, the sides discussed strengthening bilateral trade and investment, particularly agriculture, livestock, information technology, education, and service. Importantly, the two sides discussed cooperation in sustainable agriculture, wool production, and plant protection. A key outcome of the visit was the signing of an education cooperation arrangement between Pakistan and New Zealand aimed at deepening collaboration in education sector and further enhancing education ties and ties between the students and educational institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, with this I conclude my opening statements and open the floor for question. Ji Zishan.
Thank you, Spokesperson Zishan Yousafzai from DawnNews. I have multiple questions, but I'll stick to one this time. And I want your comment on the recent attack by Houthis in Bab al-Mandab. This attack was on a commercial vessel, and crew members were killed, including 3 Pakistanis, and while 11 Pakistani and Indonesian sailors were rescued. So Foreign Office has issued a statement before these Houthis attacks, so I wish your comment on it. Thank you.
Yes, this is a sad development that took place last evening, and our Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister has just issued a statement on X platform. Please do refer to that. We learned with deep concern about this unfortunate incident involving an attack on commercial vessels. This was a commercial vessel in the Red Sea. According to the information available as of now, 3 Pakistani nationals have lost their lives and 1 has sustained injuries. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families. Pakistan strongly condemns this attack on a non-combatant commercial vessel. Such attacks endanger innocent lives, constitute a violation of international law, and a serious threat to freedom of navigation, maritime security, and the safety of commercial shipping in the Red Sea. We are in contact with the relevant Saudi authorities. In fact, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister has instructed our mission in Riyadh to keep in touch with the Saudi authorities. as well as the internationally recognized government of Yemen to ascertain further details of the incident and the circumstances surrounding it. Efforts are also underway in coordination with the concerned authorities for the retrieval and repatriation of the mortal remains of the deceased Pakistani nationals, as well as for the necessary medical assistance to the injured national. The government of Pakistan will continue to closely follow the situation, and we'll share the details with the media as and when available. Let me add one point about this maritime coalition announced by KSA. It's related matter to this question. We support freedom of navigation and maritime security of international waterway under international law. Pakistan is a signatory of this coalition. We abide by its communique, and we are ready and willing to assist Saudi Arabia and other coalition partners in operationalization of this communique to preserve the safety and security of the global supply chain as well as the maritime traffic. Ji sir.
Thank you, sir. Indian MEA's spokesperson in his weekly briefing made comments on the recent protest in Azad Kashmir. What is your response on this particular matter, sir?
Yes, we saw the statement. We categorically reject the baseless statement and allegations made by the Indian MEA regarding Azad Jammu and Kashmir. India's professed concerns for human rights in AJK is disingenuous, given its own well-documented record of repression in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, including excessive use of force, arbitrary detentions, suppression of political freedom, and sweeping powers of security forces under the draconian laws enacted there. India's deliberate exaggeration and politicization, it's important to note, exaggeration and politicization of recent developments in AJK is quite misleading, and it cannot divert attention from the stark realities in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan remains fully committed to protection and fundamental rights of the democratic freedom of the people of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, including the inalienable right to self-determination of all people of Jammu and Kashmir. Rather than making such baseless statements regarding AJK, India would be well advised to honor the commitments made by its founding fathers and uphold the right of the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir to freely determine their future through a UN-administered plebiscite in accordance with the UN Security Council resolutions. Ji.
State Department in its Fiscal Transparency Report 2026 that was issued on 11th August said that Pakistan did not meet the US Department of State's minimum fiscal transparency requirements, including regarding debt disclosure, military and intelligence agencies' budgets, and institutional oversights. Does the ministry view this assessment as unwarranted interference in Pakistan's sovereign fiscal policies, and will this be raised in the bilateral talks with Washington?
Yeah, this is a development that took place yesterday, and we have seen the US Department of State's Fiscal Transparency Report of 2026, which is mandated by the US Congress, I understand. Pakistan is included amongst the 67 countries for not meeting this minimum criteria. There are other 66 countries. While Pakistan adheres to the internationally established best practices in respect of fiscal transparency, budgeting process and financial disclosure is also required to follow our own constitutional, legislative and regulatory framework. As you are aware, Pakistan is currently in an IMF program, which is, by its design, is focused on structural reform and improving fiscal management. Pakistan has successfully completed 3 IMF reviews, and its reform process and the measures taken under the process have been widely appreciated, including by the credit rating upgrading by the 3 international rating agencies as well as IMF. And I'll also refer you to Ministry of Finance for further questions, for further information on this subject.